Okay. Hello, everybody. This is another podcast by Fat Cow, Fat Wallet from Real Wealth Ranching with Jim Elizondo. Today, we have a special guest. Today, we're going to interview Matt Robbins from Robbins Ranch in Arkansas. So, hello, Robin. Hello, Matt. Sorry. Please tell us about your grazing operation and where you are at, how many acres, or anything you want to tell us about you.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
My name's Matt Robbins. We're located in Mena, Arkansas, which is in the southwest portion of Arkansas. We are in the fescue belt. We're sub 1,000 feet elevation. It's pretty hot in the summer and it can get cold in the winters. We currently are operating on about 500 acres of usable land. And we have 160 cows plus calves on it currently. The ranch was founded in 1958, and we've tried pretty much everything. We've been through all the steps, the progressions to get us to this point. In the 70s and 80s, we raised show, Simmental, and limousine animals. And my dad, he got frustrated that the heifers started to all look like bulls. And that was kind of the turning point for us that led us on this path towards regenerative agriculture and towards animals that fit their environment and are hormonally balanced. We've been doing rotational grazing since about 2001 in some form, with set stocking rate on 40 acres, all the way up to 12 moves a day. And we've been doing the total grazing for about 2 years now. And this is the first year that we did it, implementing things that we learned in Jaime's class. And without those things that we learned in Jaime's class, we wouldn't be at the point we're at today. We were missing a few critical things that greatly improved the productivity of the land, the health of the cows, and our own well-being as well.
Wow, that's a great story. So you went through the whole gamut of things, started with conventional genetics, conventional management, and you found out that that didn't give you the profits. But did it improve the land, or did it or not?
We saw a very slow decline in the soil as well as the forage up until the point where we started total grazing. We tried all the different rotational grazing types. We tried the take half, leave half. We tried the take a third, leave 2/3. I mean, you name it, we've tried it. And what it ended up ultimately resulting in was just poor quality soil. We had high interplant spacing, and sage grass, broom sage, was popping up. The weeds, they became an issue again. And it was just the opposite result of what we were looking for. And it just didn't work in our area.
Or in any other area that I've been to, because I've been to many different areas.
Yeah, I don't see how that type of grazing could really work, especially after doing the total grazing compared. It's just a night and day difference.
Okay, so how has the course of total grazing benefited your farm?
Like I said, this is the second year total grazing, first year using the things that we learned in your class, and we ran out of cows. We need to easily double our stocking rate to be able to make effective use of our forage. For example, we're currently on 40 acres of really poor, low octane C4 grasses. And we're going to end up being on that 40 acres for almost 60 days by the time we're done with it. It's pretty incredible compared to what conventional guys would get out of that same 40 acres.
Yeah, so you have a lot of stockpile for this winter.
Yeah, we have plenty of stockpile. I really doubt we're going to feed any hay this year, and it's going to be the first year, I think, that we won't feed hay unless we get a lot of snow or ice. We've been close sometimes. this is
I cannot hear you. It's breaking off.
that we're probably not going to feed him.
Hello, Matt. It broke off. Could you repeat the last part?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah, I think this will be the first year where we don't feed any hay at all.
That's great. Great to know. And that's how we save money, by feeding stockpile. Yeah.
Yes.
So where did you first find me and my courses?
Through your WhatsApp group
Yeah.
and also through Facebook.
Oh, great. And what problem were you looking to solve when you looked for me?
We were burnt out, basically, more or less at that point. We were frustrated about the lack of progress that the soil was making, and also just the human stress load on us as well. Because, like I said, we had tried the 12 moves a day thing, and that's just too much. It was stressful on us, it was stressful on the cows. They never settled and seemed to be comfortable. It didn't work. So we were looking to make a change for something that would improve the soils, and it would improve our quality of life, and also would help our cows go ahead and be able to be productive and maximize our profit per acre.
That's so good to hear, Matt. So now your cows are in better body condition?
They are, and a big part of that is from the Moshona genetics.
Yes.
That's been one of the biggest changes for us. We've tried a whole bunch of different stuff in our area. We did, like I said, in the 70s and 80s, we had the Simmental limousine, and then we went to what was supposed to be some high efficiency Angus animals. We even tried some beefalo back in the 70s. But we've tried a whole bunch of different cattle in our area, and the Moshona has made the biggest stamp on efficiency and making animals that are heat tolerant and fescue tolerant as well, which is really important in our area, especially with the humidity that we have. And if you're asking those animals to graze under controlled circumstances 4 times a day, they've got to be able to go out and eat. We have some straight English animals still, some straight Angus or some Angus for maybe 10 minutes. And then in the heat of the day, that's too much for them. They'll go back to shade. Meanwhile, our Moshonas and Moshona crossed animals will continue to graze and get full. So it's really important to have animals that match your environment.
You're absolutely correct. So the Moshona have made a great impact. I tell my public that your cattle genetics are an important and integral part of your ranch or farm, because they are. They improve
Absolutely.
the land on which they graze if they are adapted, or they degrade the land in which they graze if they are unadapted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm so happy. So then the course helped you with the genetics?
It did, absolutely. We learned quite a bit through that to help further refine our selection process. My dad, he started looking at the Moshona quite some time ago, and he was just never able to find some. And then we finally got some, and we started working through them, and we saw the immediate impact that it had on those animals that were crossed with Moshona. So we crossed all the rest of our animals with Moshona, and we're going to be phasing out all of our English and the Simmental limousine crossed animals, and we're only going to be keeping the stuff that's crossed with Moshona. It made that much of a difference in our area, in our environment.
And in many other areas. So please tell me, how was your life talking about cow sickness or efficiency of harvest efficiency compared to what it is now with the change in genetics and selection and the total grazing?
Oh, well, since we're doing the total grazing, the harvest efficiency has gone up tremendously, especially when you add the Moshona influence in there, because those animals are able to be pushed much harder than your conventional Angus English breeds are able to, especially in hot environments. Like I said, our English animals that are left, they're just not able to graze in the heat of the day. So you lose a lot of harvest efficiency because of that. They can't go out and graze like your heat adapted animals can. So I'd say we've greatly increased our harvest efficiency to the point where we're going to have to add, another 100 animals or so to be able to
Wow.
make effective use of our land.
Wow. So you're happy with the change.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I always tell people that with adapted genetics, especially nutritional adaptation, we can increase our stocking rate by at least 30%. Now you're proving much higher.
Yeah. I'm as we're grazing into the stockpile, we'll know exactly how many more animals we can add. But right now, it's looking somewhere between 60 and 100 animals.
Yeah.
So we're real happy about that.
Me too. I'm happy for you. So what would you tell people that think that taking more grass is overgrazing? I mean, when you
Well,
graze a paddock and you take it all instead of taking the top third, they say, "Oh, that's overgrazing." What would you tell them?
what I would tell them is it's not overgrazing if you give it the appropriate amount of rest, and
Yes.
that's key is the amount of rest. What we've seen when we tried the other forms of rotational grazing, those cows will go through and they'll pick out the very best plants and they'll graze them down to the crown. And you do this enough times, and eventually those desirable plants are gone, and so you're left with weeds and undesirable plants and sage, and your plant spacing just continues to grow. So by
Yes.
taking everything evenly, you encourage your good plants to go ahead and grow and be fruitful and multiply, and it discourages your less desirable plants. So taking that grass down evenly and giving it the appropriate amount of rest is the biggest difference versus doing, like a third graze or half graze or whatever else, because you still have that stem left that the roots are trying to support. And as we know, that causes those roots to go ahead and die trying to support that stem. Versus if you clip that plant down, it's not trying to support the stem. It's able to send out new leaves, and it's even better than it was before. It's a pretty magical thing. I don't know how else to put it.
Yeah.
It's really a magical thing.
You're absolutely correct, and I'm very proud of you that you understand it so well. So you're not overgrazing, you're actually building stronger roots. And the ones that are selective grazing, unless they have a very low stocking rate compared to what you are achieving, they are overgrazing by returning too fast because they have to come too fast back again.
That's right. Yeah, and like
Yeah.
you said, those cows, they'll go and they'll pick out their treats, and they'll just keep eating that as soon as there's new regrowth, and they'll ignore all the other plants. And I think that's one of the problems with some of the other grazing programs is they don't take into account cows don't graze evenly unless you force them to.
Mhm.
It's a pretty neat thing.
That's pretty. You describe it very well because they say, well, take a third, but on average. Well, tell that to the individual plant that was taken down to the ground and will be taken down again next time with too little rest, overgrazed and killed. That's what you told me, and that's what I see.
Exactly. That's what we saw too.
So what would you say to the people that object, that they say, oh, if I use a Mashona cross, nobody will want to buy me the calves? What would you say to that?
So I'd say our quarter crossed calves, they're going to be quarter Mashona, quarter Beefmaster, and half Angus. Those animals have done extremely well at our local market. They've almost topped the market a few times.
Yeah.
They're really good calves, and in our area, Brangus is pretty popular. And they're almost impossible to differentiate. They just look like a better animal than a
Mhm.
Brangus cross, in my opinion. So I don't think there'll be any problems with that. And you can always adjust as your market is required. But
Sure.
adapted genetics is really, really key to what we're trying to do here.
Sure, you're doing the right way. We need to have sellable animals, but we want those adapted genes in our composite so we can carry more productive animals and still sell them at top prices. Yes, absolutely correct. So at first, what was your first step? Going from 12 moves per day to less, or the Machona? What was your first step?
Well, our first step would be just going to the 4 moves per day.
Okay.
And we weren't quite getting that right the first year because we grazed 4 moves per day every day of the year.
Wow.
So there wasn't rest for me, there wasn't rest for the cattle. And I will admit the Mashonas did incredibly well in spite of me messing up and treating them like that. They did exceptional, and so did the cross Mashona animals. They survived that really well in spite of me messing up and maybe putting too much pressure on them in that regard.
Yeah.
But that was our first move, is going to the 4 moves a day, and then just kind of it's more of a an art than a science at first when you try to figure out your paddock sizes. So that was really the biggest thing, is going to that 4 moves per day.
Great. And how did the course help you with your weekends and the 4 less work per day and then the weekends?
That was one of the biggest things for us, is allowing us to know it's okay to not put out fires constantly.
Always breaking out.
And
Could you hold a little?
on preparing ahead of time as much as possible. Yes, can you hear me?
Now I can hear you. It was breaking off.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'll restart that.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. Can you repeat that question for me real quick?
Yes. How did the course help you with going down to 4 moves per day instead of 12 and taking off on the weekends?
So that just allowed us to know that it was okay to take time off for ourselves. We've always worked and worked and worked, and it made such a huge difference on the animals, especially the ones that may have been lagging behind just a little bit, our conventional English animals. It helped them go ahead and be able to maintain some body condition. But it was really big for us too, just to have that time off to be able to spend with family and to recharge. And it made doing those 4 moves so much easier during the week, because you just weren't dreading it like we had been the previous year when I was doing it every day of the week, 365. That time off for the animals and for herself is really important.
Wow, that makes me so happy, because I did it for myself for 7 years. So I know what it takes. So I feel it. I'm so happy you're doing it. And what specific results can you share? You already told us that you have your whole herd on 40 acres for 60 days, that you have more time for yourself. Your cattle are doing better, in better body condition. You have more stockpile than ever, and you expect to go without hay if there is no ice, of course. What else can you tell us? Is the land improving? Are you getting more leafier forage?
The land is definitely improving. On top of all those things you mentioned, something we're really excited about is we're seeing some of the native grasses return on their own, especially Indian grass and big blue stem. Those are just volunteering on their own, showing up, and we're really excited about that. It's neat to see without any assistance, treating the soil properly.
Wow, so you're getting big blue stem coming in?
We are, yeah, we sure are. We've got just a few patches of it, but it's there, and it showed up in 3 different places. One of them is in the half of the ranch that we're stockpiling, and it's probably about a 30 by 30 patch of big blue stem. Just showed up there all on its own. We've not ever seen it there before. So there's something magical about that amount of rest that you give the land, and then utilizing it fully and then giving it that rest again.
Yeah, in the stockpile area is where we bring the best species back. But have you noticed that the soil gets softer there?
Oh yes. We've had compaction. Yeah, we've had compaction issues we cut hay on some of these fields for years and years, and we've had to put fertilizer and sprays, and we've done all of that conventional stuff that guys go through with the heavy equipment and everything else. And we're down to just one tractor. We don't have any hay equipment. We don't even have a brush hog, and we don't put out fertilizer anymore. We're not spraying anymore. And this year, the big problem in the South was armyworms.
Yes.
Our neighbors were hit with armyworms
Yeah.
really badly. We weren't. We didn't treat for armyworms. The only areas where the worms popped up was at our most compacted areas. And then once they spread from that very compacted area, they got to healthy soils and they didn't go any further. So there's some really good stuff going on in the soil and in the plants.
I'm so happy for you. And anyone that is listening to this, they should take your example, because those patches of better grasses like the big blue stem, by allowing them to stockpile, their seed will spread. And because it's very fluffy, it will be spread by air. And over the years, as you stockpile, you will get more and more of those best species, which will not be killed by overgrazing, because with total grazing, we avoid overgrazing, which is regrazing the plant before it has fully recovered. So what would you say to somebody on the fence about learning from this course?
I'd say do it. Jump in with both feet. Don't have any reservations. If you've been trying the other rotational grazing programs and just not seeing the results that you expected, do it. Just don't hesitate. Do it. Save yourself all the time that we did since the early 2000s trying to figure this out, and just dive in both feet. You will not regret it. Your soil will improve, your forages will improve, your animals will improve, and your quality of life will improve.
That's so good. Yeah. So enrollment for the Total Grazing Maximizer, which is the grazing part with the genetics, adapted genetics selection part together, because that's how you get the best results. That's why we call it Maximizer, closes on the night of October 21. So I would like, if there is any topic that you would like to discuss.
Maybe a little bit more, if you'd like, about the adapted genetics and the importance of having animals that fit your zip code.
Yeah, your zip code, but as I don't know what's happening, but it's getting warmer in higher latitudes and altitudes. So we're finding out that even in Eastern Washington, they had a heat wave this summer. So the animals that did the best were the half Machona lot, not the 1/4, and not the pure English. They were not able to stand the 100+ degrees every day for a month. And then in Canada, they also had drought in Manitoba and heat. So we need to be adapting to these changes, and we need to use more adapted genetics with the best selection guidelines, so we don't go against nature, but actually read what nature is showing us to select our best animals. And that's what we explain in the course. So I've seen this happen in every environment. I don't see, for example, armyworms. Now they had armyworms in Idaho, in the mountains, in the irrigated pastures, when before they didn't have armyworms there. And as you know, armyworms come when you have not good conditions for your plants. Like if you apply synthetic fertilizers, insecticides, fungicides, or you have compacted soils, you will get armyworms. But now they're going further north, and that's uncommon. So I don't know if we can go by zip code or we need to go by what's actually happening. What do you think?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I will say this winter we had one of those historic events that they say, and we had sub-zero temperatures for a solid week. And our full blood Mashonas, they survived that no problems. They were grateful when it warmed up. You could tell they felt a little better.
Yeah.
But they didn't have any problems with that sub-zero temperature.
And what about?
So they're
Go ahead. Sorry.
They're a pretty hardy animal, and I think they could go fairly far north based upon that.
And what about the half bloods? Did they take it better, the cold?
The half bloods, we have half Mashona, half Beefmaster, and then we have a few half Angus, and they all handled it just fine.
That's great to know. Well, let me tell you something. I am very proud of you because you have unlearned and you have relearned, and that's very hard to do. When I did it the first time, I had a headache because I had to do it in nutrition and in other things that I had been trained. So I am beyond glad for all that you have achieved, and this is just the beginning. So please share your contact number at the end before you end, okay? And I want to remind everyone that the Total Grazing Maximizer program closes enrollment soon, and I hope that everybody can join us so that you can have the same results as Matt. So please give us your phone number.
Okay, you can reach me at 479-234-1695.
Because you have genetics for sale, right?
Yes, we do have some full blood Mashonas, and we have some half bloods, and we're working on some 3/4 bloods as well.
That's great. And you're selecting the best way. So that will give you the best animals.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Tell me a little more about your genetics. Where did you get them? How are you selecting them? And where are you going with it?
So we've got some Lassiter Beefmaster crossed Mashonas, and those came out of Oklahoma. And then the full blood Mashonas we got a herd of about 45, I believe it was, and we selected those down to the best 10 based upon calving record and phenotype, and we're running with them from there. And hopefully we plan to flush some of those and to increase the numbers that way until we can get a larger herd of full bloods going. We're selecting them based on the 2-3 principle. And then we've made on our half bloods, because of our local market and the way things are there, we're not shooting for by any means a large animal, but we do need just a little bit bigger animal to be able to sell a profitable animal in our local market. So that's what we're doing with our half bloods. The full bloods, we're just pushing them to do what they do to be efficient and wonderful little animals. We're just letting them tell us where they need to go as far as the full bloods go. We're using the information from your course. So we're not trying to dilute what they are by any means, because I think the majority of cattle in the U.S. have been really messed up by man selection process. That's correct. That's something that is really special about the Mashona, is they've not been ruined by man's own selection process, where we think we know better than nature. So we intend to keep them that way and not ruin them the way that almost every other breed in the U.S. has been ruined.
Well, let me tell you what I think. I think you're doing the best. That's the way to do it, because you're going to create a composite that will be easy to sell, because it will have a better beef to bone ratio, and it will have the size that is required by the market, while still retaining the adaptation abilities of the Mashona. So that's what we all need to do. You're doing a composite the best way.
Thank you. We're working on it.
Yeah, you're getting there, and you're seeing the improvement in your land and in your genetics. So you're building up your capital, and that's the best we can do. And you're enjoying life. I can see that. I can hear it. I'm so happy for you. Thank you very much. And I hope everybody that hears this can join in and have the same success that you're having. Thank you very much, Matt. Is there anything else you want to say?
Just thank you very much for putting this program together. It's made a really big difference for us, and I hope that anyone that's on the fence, they can reach out to me. I'm happy to talk about anything they concerns that I can help in some way. But it's worth it. I mean, the price that you pay is so little for what changes you can make and how quickly things can turn around once you really start implementing things. Uh, just do it. Just do it.
Thank you very much. We need to jump in and start doing something good for us and good for community and good for the world and for our family, of course. So thank you very much again and have a very good night. And I hope to visit you soon. I want to see that. Okay.
Oh, all right. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you and good night.
Good night.